Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
I always knew that my tears would bring me laughter, but I never knew my laughter would make me cry. That's saying by Cat Stevens, and that's all about memories, of what memories are due to us, good and bad. Welcome to You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul. I'm Justin Mergliani. Great to have you here for another week. Hopefully you can chat in and share with me what your memories are and what makes you smile and what makes you cry. So the name of the show is Memories Are a Double-Edged Sword. Excuse me. And it's true. It really is true. There are a lot of things that you look back on that they're just great memories that make you very happy. For me, childhood, the innocence of childhood and being able to enjoy things that you can never enjoy any as an adult. You can't enjoy it the same way you did as a kid. There was hero worship when you're a kid. And there are professional athletes that I looked up to. Now, whether you're a sports fan or not, it doesn't matter, because maybe it was a band and you looked up to a certain lead singer. Maybe it was Bon Jovi. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was classical music, Pavarotti, whatever it might have been. Or maybe you were in dance and there was a certain dancer that you wanted to be like, and that person was larger than life to you. Those are good memories. And they only get to happen once. And in some ways, that's a good thing. In some ways, that's painful. All the first, I think, are the things that are most exciting in your life. The first time you get to play a sport, or the first time you have a recital, or the first time you drive down to the beach, the first time you win a championship as a kid, all these different things. And then after you get older and after you've done it before, it doesn't get as exciting. And as an adult, even there are those times that when you have your first child, you become a parent for the first time. When you have your second child, you're already a parent. It's not like you're becoming a parent like the first time. It's not to say that you don't love the children the same, but the moment is a little bit different because it's not the first time you kiss somebody, the first time you fall in love, the first time you get a job, first time you buy a house. And then that's it. That's the only first you get. And those memories last a long time. So I look back at childhood and I have so many good memories of it with my parents and brother and sister and family around us, and bonding over different things like swimming in a pool at my grandparents' house, or walking down 9th Street in Philadelphia, the Italian market, with my father's mother, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, all these fun things that we did. And I look back at college and I think, man, that was just unbelievable. It was just such a great time. And I think the great thing about college, now that I have a daughter who is in college at 19 years old, is it's the only time in your life that you get the best of both worlds. You get to be a kid and you get to be an adult at the same time. You get to drive You get to go out and stay out as long as you want. You get to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to eat, everything that you were told to do, everything that somebody else said you should do this, you should do that, that all changes. And yet you don't have the responsibilities of an adult who has to pay a mortgage, has to pay a car payment, has to pay insurance, has to pay electric bill, cable bill, all the things that we have to do. And then when you become a parent, obviously there's even more pressure to do things well and to support your family. But in college, you don't have to worry about any of that. When you're 19, 20, 21, it's, again, really the best of both worlds. It's being able to kind of be a kid, and things are fresh and exciting and new. And at the same time, you're on your own. You get to make your own decisions and become independent. And I look back at that and think, man, that was just really, really cool. And I think that sometimes we are afraid of what changes are going to be. And going into college, I thought, will I make it? How will I be able to do this? Am I going to be smart enough? Am I going to be able to make friends like I want to? What's going to happen? And now I can look back and say, that was really a lot of fun. And then, of course, there are the bad memories, the memories of loss, whether it was the most difficult of those would be loss of family and friends through death or through them moving away or time, takes hold and people just kind of grow apart. So those memories are tough. Those are the ones that really kind of stick with you, and they're painful when you think about them. I had a person recently I was talking to, and she asked me a question. She said, "You seem to have an incredible memory, and why do you remember all of this? Why do you remember this?" And I turned the question around and I said, "Well, why don't you remember all of that?" It's the same question. It's just different ways to ask it. Some people remember things so vividly, and some people just don't. And what I've come to realize, and I think, and I've read this before, and there are always theories that are going to be in opposition to this. You probably remember the things that leave the biggest impression, the things that really either made you extremely happy or extremely sad. But it was, as the movie says, I can't remember what it's called. It's a Disney movie. The core memories. The core memories. Those are the ones that stay with you forever. So when this friend of mine asked me, she said, "Well, how do you remember all this stuff?" Again, I just turned it around and I said, "Well, why don't you remember all this stuff?" It's not an indictment. I'm not saying that anyone has to remember anything or not remember things. It's not a good or bad thing. It just is what it is. It's not, somebody is right or wrong. It is exactly how it should be. So the things that have really stuck with me are the things that are most important to me. And I think the more sensitive you are, the more things matter to you, the more you're going to remember. And that's my personality. There are things that I just think about, and I could go back to memories, believe it or not. I think my earliest recollection was probably about 2 years old, as crazy as that might sound. And we were, my parents and my brother wasn't even born yet, I don't think. We were in South Philadelphia, where we lived, on Snyder Avenue, which is a big street in South Philadelphia. And we were in my mother's Volkswagen Bug, My father was driving, and I was on my mother's lap, and we got hit from behind, got rear-ended by a cab, and I can remember hitting the dashboard with my face, and I remember it was my mouth, and my mouth was bleeding, and I don't remember all the details. I kind of have an idea of what the cab driver looked like, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, obviously, it's fuzzy because I'm so young at that time, and it was, a traumatic experience, I guess. And at 2 years old, I can remember that. I remember them taking me out of the car, holding me on Snyder Avenue, and I remember my father talking to the cab driver who hit us. I don't remember the conversation. I'm sure it was not a pleasant one. I think if I remember right, and this is probably afterwards, I think he was lighting a cigarette and just didn't. This was the 70s, so people were smoking in the car, and he just hit us, and I remember that. And again, I'm probably about 2 years old. Now, do I remember all the details about going to the hospital afterwards? No, I don't remember any of that. But I just remember being out in the street. I remember being in my uncle's wedding when I was 3, 1977. Not quite 3 yet, about to turn 3, 2.5. And I remember being in the wedding. I remember somebody holding me, and I remember looking around because I was looking for one of my uncles. And one of my aunts said, "Oh, he's looking for so and so." And yeah, I just remember that. Why? How does that stay in my head? I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, it's a core memory. You know, I have an unbelievable knack for remembering statistics in sports, especially hockey, because that's my go-to sport. It's the one that I'm most uh, that I would eat, breathe, and drink hockey when I was a kid, and that was because it made me feel like I was winning. Because my team in Philadelphia, the Flyers, they were winning, and I felt like I was winning, and that's why it made such a big impression on me. So those were not just games to me; those were events, things that I got to share with my family and friends, and they stick with me. And I love those memories. I just love to go back, and the gift of the internet and the gift of YouTube kind of lets us go back in time and relive all that stuff as it happened. You can just put in now pretty much any game or any event you want, whether you like the Super Bowl or whether you like, a telethon from the 70s or whatever it is. Most of these things are readily available now. And it's amazing to see how much you really do remember and how much you thought you remembered. There are some times where I'll look at something that's from years and years ago, and I thought it was one way and it was close, but not quite the way I thought. So when you remember things, do you really remember? How much of it do you remember um, totally 100% correct? And how much of it is the general idea, but not quite exactly what you thought? So those are the things that I remember, and people say this all the time. Where were you when John F. Kennedy was shot? So if you're old enough that you were, let's say you were in school in 1963, everybody remembers where they were from that time. You ask anybody who was around at that time, and they'll tell you where they were. They'll say, I was in French class, I was in math class, I was working at the hotel, whatever it was. You remembered. For my generation, it was more uh, Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986. I know exactly where I was. I was in 5th grade in math class. I remember hearing the principal come over the loudspeaker and tell us what happened. And I remember what the teacher, really upset. She said, "That's really sad." And these things just stick in your head. Now, are there some people who were in that class that don't remember the details like I do? Probably. They remember they were in math class, but they don't necessarily remember that it was Miss Brunner who was teaching the class, or Mr. Otto, who was the principal making the speech, or what Miss Brunner said. But those things stuck with me. And I can't tell you why. what makes one person remember so many things like that in detail, and what doesn't allow people to remember that. One of the things that we do, and I know I have done this for most of my life, and I'm trying to get out of it, I'm trying to learn how to not do this, is romanticize the past. I have spent a lot of time living backwards, where I look at the good old days. Say, wasn't this great? Wasn't this perfect? Everything was wonderful. Nothing went wrong. And that's not true. As great as things were when I was a kid, as great as things were when I was in college, there were bad days. We, as human beings, have a tendency to be all or nothing. If we go on a vacation and it rains, excuse me, if you're on vacation for 10 days and it rains for 6, when you get home, the most likely thing you're going to say is, it was a washout. It was a terrible vacation. We spent all that money. And out of the 10 days, 6 of the 10 days, it was raining. It was terrible. What about the other 4? Maybe the other 4 were perfect. Maybe you were parasailing. Maybe you were on the beach, whatever. You were riding a motorcycle around an island, whatever it is. We have a tendency to put everything in one basket and say, this is all good or this is all bad. The memories, and I think on a TV show, Everybody Loves Raymond, he called it mental editing. You just keep the good stuff. Flip it. What if you were on a vacation and 6 days out of 10, it was beautiful, great weather, you did all the fun stuff. You might come home and somebody will say, how was your vacation? It was great. Everything was perfect. But was it? The 4 days that it rained might not have been perfect. It might have been okay. Maybe you played games in the hotel room. Maybe you went to an arcade with the kids and you did something fun. You made, lemons out of lemonade, or I said it backwards, lemonade out of lemons, but it doesn't mean it was perfect. It's not all or nothing. I talk to people all the time about things that I remember, and they have no recollection of it whatsoever. And it might have been something that we did together. Do you remember that dance that we went to when we stayed at this hotel? And sometimes people say, I have no idea what you're talking about. And other people say, yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. And some people, it's a mix. Like, yeah, I kind of remember that. It's fuzzy, but I do remember some of it. I have a tendency to hold on to things, for good or bad. Some of the bad memories have actually turned into good memories. And I remember, and I mentioned this to him recently, my best friend, Phil. We went to college together and we met freshman year, and he's become like another brother. I remember I was in a relationship and it broke up in 1997. And as I'm leaving the girl's house and heading home, he was on the way. So I kind of rolled into his house and I waited for him. And I just told him, how upset I was. And he sat with me and kind of consoled me while he knew I was really hurting. And at the time, that was a terrible thing. It didn't feel good at all. It felt awful. It's like the world is ending because you're 22 years old and you're breaking up with somebody for the first time and all those things that seem like the end of the world, where now it's just like, it is life. It just is what it is. But I can look back at that time and say, yeah, it was a terrible, terrible time. But I could also look back at the time and say, that's when we were cemented as brothers, because that was the moment that solidified everything. We were no longer just friends. We became brothers that day. And he remembers that. I talked to him about it, and he remembers that night. And, some of the things that we've done since, having, being in each other's weddings and seeing each other's kids, going to birthday parties and stuff like that. I'm not sure all that would have happened without the breakup night. Maybe it would have. But if you told me that I could go back in time and not have to go through that, but also not have the friendship that I have with Phil, I would go right back to it. I would go through it again. No doubt about it. Now, if you asked me that night, I probably wouldn't have said that, but 29 years later, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, memories that kind of are lukewarm. Yeah, I remember the last time I saw, well, both grandmothers really, but my first grandmother who passed away, I remember the last thing we ever did was I happened to be leaving. We had just put her in the nursing home. She was literally that day. And as I was walking out, for some reason, I turned around and I looked at her one more time. And as incoherent as she was, and she had no idea what was going on for the most part, there was one moment where she was lucid and it was only a brief second or two. But when I turned to her, she looked at me and she winked like that, and I winked back at her. And I never saw her alive again. That was the last time I saw her. So part of me thinks back to that, and it hurts because it's like, wow, that's tough, to see somebody you love for the last time, and not have been able to. I don't know, maybe it would have been harder if I knew it was the last time. But in any event, it's a tough memory, but at the same time, it's a good memory because at least the way I think, she knew. She knew. She was saying, I'll see you down the road, and maybe that wink was just to kind of make me be at peace. And then my other grandmother, the we took her out for her birthday. And this was in 2009, and my daughter was just 3, not even. She was about to turn 3. And it was really, really hard to get her a gift for her birthday because she was 86 or 85, about to turn 86. And no, she just turned 86. In any event, we decided to take her out for her birthday. We took her out for pizza and French fries. And then she really liked water ice in Philadelphia. That's a big thing in Philadelphia. And we went out to get some water ice. And I remember really vivid parts of it, of that night. I remember somebody almost hit us in the parking lot, and I got angry, as I have done a lot. And I remember yelling at the guy, and I mean, we didn't get in a fist fight, but I, said a few things. He said a few things back, and I remember her saying, why are you getting so nervous? Why are you getting so nervous?" And we let it go, obviously, just let it pass. And I remember her getting home with the water ice, and she was trying to open her door, and at the same time she was spilling the water ice. And I said, "You're spilling it." And she goes, "Oh, I don't want to spill. That's the best part." She liked it when it melted, and to be able to drink it down, that's the best part. And that's a little thing. I mean, why do I remember that? I don't know. And then going in the house, I remember her playing with Alexandra, my daughter, and just having a good time with her and playing games with her. And I didn't know that she was going to have a stroke the next day. And while she did survive, she was never the same again. She never walked again. She's coherent, but not the same way. Her speech was gone pretty much. So I look back at that night, and it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, you got that one last time that was really cool and really, really fun, and something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. But at the same time, if you look back at that, you think, I didn't know that hours later, the whole world was going to change. It always shocks me about life. I know it never ceases to amaze me how things change so rapidly. One of the first times I ever experienced death of a friend, he passed away, and I remember going to the funeral and going to the cemetery afterwards. And what I could not fathom was the fact that a week before that burial, he was seemingly fine. His life was just normal. Everything, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do that tomorrow. Next week, I have this appointment. Next month, I have that appointment, all that stuff. And in less than 7 days, that changed from being alive and doing all the things you do to being dead, buried, and that's it. In less than a week. It's like, how does that happen? And I know it's normal. I know it's supposed to happen, but it doesn't make it any less, I don't want to say confusing, but certainly it's difficult to rationalize. And the good stuff sticks with me, of course, as I said in the beginning of the show. The good stuff are the things that made you happy. Birthday parties. Christmas time in my family was amazing. My birthday's December 20th. My father is December 21st. You have Christmas Eve. One of my aunts had a birthday on Christmas Eve. You have Christmas Day. My mother's birthday is on the 28th of December. Then you have New Year's. Man, it was fantastic. That month was just amazing. It was one celebration after another. I look back at that and I think, oh my goodness, what I would give to just have one more chance to relive that. We didn't have video cameras back then in the early 80s even to the 90s, really. So there's no, the only video I have at that time is in my head. If I want to replay it, that's the only place I can replay it. I can't, there is no other record of it. The only way I know it happened was just memories. And I tried so hard to replicate that when I had kids, and it wasn't the same. Now, I don't know if you ask them if those memories are the same, if they look back and say, wow, that was a great time, because they were the kids. And I wonder if it wasn't as exciting to me because I just wasn't looking at it through childhood eyes. I don't know. I don't know. I remember so much more from my childhood than I do from my adulthood. And I think that's normal. I think that most people that I talk to, they say, well, when you have the responsibilities of a parent, you have responsibilities of an adult, all the things that you have to do, it's much harder to remember little details. Everything's done for you when you're a kid, right? Somebody makes your food, somebody cleans up after you, somebody drives you everywhere. Your parents, your aunts, uncles, whatever it happens to be. So you have more time to reflect on what's going on, whether you realize it or not. I don't think kids actually reflect, but I think they see more details. And it's amazing. And this is, again, is something that everybody's going to say, yeah, I know that. You're not telling me anything new. But time moves so much faster when you get older. I used to look at 10 years and think, oh my goodness, 10 years. That's so long ago. And now I look at 10 years and think, it just happened. Look at my college days ended in 97. It's 29 years ago. I can remember them vividly. I can remember things that people said, people did, being on the radio station. I remember joking around on the radio station, having such a good time. TV class, having a great time in TV class. I remember sporting events that we watched together. And when I look at it and it's almost 30 years ago, I think to myself, yeah, it seems like it just happened. It doesn't seem like it could possibly be that long. But when I was 19 and I thought 10 years, it seemed like a lifetime. And it was. When you're 19, you're a young adult. When you're 9, 10 years before, you're a young child. You're not even a teenager yet, not even a preteen yet, not even in double digits yet. The distance between 9 and 19 is the distance between the East Coast of the US and Europe. It's huge. But as you get older, what is it now, 2026, going 10 years ago? I can remember 2016. Doesn't seem like an eternity ago. It seems like it was just here. Even the 2000s, look at the 2000s, and I think, oh, 2000s were recent, and it's 26 years ago. When we had Y2K, and I think to myself, how is it possible? How could it be 26 years? It seems like it was a short time. It just is what it is. It's how our brains work. What's it saying? The days are long and the years are short. That's true. How much of our life do we wish away? I can't wait till this day's over. I'm not happy. I'm at work and I have a lot of pressure. I can't wait. Can't wait till it's over. This weekend's gonna stink. I have to do this, that, and the other thing. I gotta move furniture or I have to paint something. I can't wait till this weekend's over. I do that all the time. I do it all the time too. And I don't know that any one of us will ever be completely good at not doing that. I think that's always going to be something you're going to have to work at. But don't wish your life away. Don't wish your life away because you only get one run. That's it. So when people wonder why I remember what I remember, it's the same question, just in reverse. Why don't they remember what they don't remember? And I want to reiterate that it's not a knock. It doesn't mean that my brain is better than theirs or their brain is better than mine. It's just a different brain. That's all. Why did it matter so much to me? Why didn't it matter as much to them? I think about, and there's also projection too. I think one of the things that I fear the most is how something in the future is going to leave tough memories. So, I was down in the crawl space of my parents' house, and we're putting some stuff. My sister and I were putting some things into the crawl space, and we saw a lot of old stuff. I mean, stuff that was from 40, 50 years ago, from when I was a baby. And crossed our minds that eventually, when our parents pass, we're going to have to go through all that stuff. And that's going to be brutal. I mean, that's not going to be something that is going to be very easy to do at all. And part of the fear is when you do that, how do you get out from under the memory of doing that? So it's not just that day. It's not like, well, you just do it for a day and then it's over and you just forget about it. It's not. It's something that you're going to remember the rest of your life, especially on the day of their birthday or the day that they would pass. You think about it. Right now I'm in the middle of selling my house that I brought my kids home into from the hospital. And as it gets closer to that, you can feel it. Because I walk in a room and I can remember the babies coming home. And I can remember giving them a bath in the living room. And I can remember, going into their room in the middle of the night, listening to the music that they play. And if I ever, it's the Rudy soundtrack. Whenever I hear it, it brings me right back to a rocking chair in the middle of their room. And that was almost 20 years ago. My first child was born, Alex. And about 15 years ago, well, not quite, Rebecca was born. And, I look around that house and think, this is what happened here and this is what happened there. It's not a fun feeling. It's not something. And that's why, again, the memories are a double-edged sword because, yeah, I got great memories of that house and there were things that I'll remember forever that are good, but they can be painful too. How great was it to give them a bath for the first time? I look back and love that. That was a great thing. But I also look back and it hurts because you'll never get it again. And the place where it happened won't be with us anymore. It'll be gone. That's a hard pill to swallow. Most of my life, I wasn't able to accept these things. I really struggled with it. I wasn't able to accept the pain and then allow myself to get better. I really wallowed in it way too long. Now, that's not to say that the day that we walk out of that house for the last time is not going to be devastating, because it is. It's gonna be a gut punch, and I can't even imagine what it's gonna be like. I can imagine, I guess, what it's gonna be like to close that door for the last time, and the last look that you have at that living room, and know that you're not coming back there. You know, all the growing up and all the things that went on, and we've gone through that, well, as a family many times. We my grandparents' homes, my grandmother, grandfather in New Jersey, my grandmother in Philadelphia. Eventually, once they passed away, those homes were sold. And we took video of leaving it. So we have a lasting memory of it. I don't really need a video because I can remember it like it happened, all the details, because it was such a strong emotional thing. But, what goes through your mind at those times are a lot of the good things that happen, but you're crying through it because you know you can't have it back again. And I know we have to forge forward and everybody has to move forward and there's no going back in time. I get all that. That doesn't make it easier to swallow. And I guess it's okay. What's not okay is just staying locked into it and not allowing yourself to look forward to things that are to come. I don't want to lose that house, but at the same time, I have the memories forever, and you can't take that away. They're there. I remember my father when we left Philadelphia, and that for me, that was brutal. I was 14, didn't want to go, didn't want to move out of Philadelphia. It was my home from birth. I loved being in that little house, all the great memories that we had of all the things I talked about earlier in the show. And I cried for months. I just couldn't bear to think that somebody else was going to spend time in that house and call it theirs when it was mine, our family's. I didn't want anybody else to have it. You still feel that way about the house in Cherry Hill right now, the one that we're selling. But I remember my dad said something when I went to bed, and I had been crying probably for hours. And he said, but just remember, we still have each other, as I was getting ready to go to sleep. And that's true. We didn't have the house anymore, but we have each other. And when you're 14, you don't really think about that stuff. But then when you start to get a little bit older, it's like, yeah, that's true. That's the important thing. Doesn't mean that I don't think about that house sometimes and feel down. And I'm going to feel that way about the home I'm selling right now. But I'll also smile at the things that were good. The Christmases, watching the kids open up gifts. So it was always my favorite, seeing them open gifts and just enjoying the day. Even if it was a gift that they were never going to use again. I know, how many gifts we gave the kids that they weren't winners, but that day they were excited about it. It was worth it. It was worth it. I don't care how much money I wasted. I really don't, because his memories were worth the price of admission. Now, some people look at that as wasteful. Not to me, it's not. Those are great, great memories. All right, so as we finish up the show, really the main takeaway is it's double-edged sword. The same memories that will make you smile might make you cry. And the same memories that might make you cry will make you smile, and you might be doing both at the same time. But hold on to them. Sometimes all you got left. All right, I want to thank everybody for being here this week. Hope I see you again next week in the same place on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at USAGlobalTV.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio. My Tummy Hurts by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Meet Jackie. She loves recess, running with friends, and laughing on the playground. At school, Jackie tries to play like she always does, but suddenly the pain comes back. Lately, something feels different and her tummy hurts, sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. With the help of a caring teacher, a nurse, her mom, and a kind doctor, Jackie begins to understand what her body is trying to tell her. Sometimes tummy pain is more than a simple bellyache. Some children live with conditions like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Jackie listens to her body. She asks for help. She knows she's not alone. And Jackie finds her way back to running, laughing, and being herself. My Tummy Hurts, a kid's guide to bellyaches and bathroom troubles by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, available on Amazon and in fine bookstores around the world.